Good morning. My name is Bang. I'm a second year fellow. I'm sure I've met pretty much everybody by now, but if you haven't, this is me. I'm going to be talking about supplements and herbal medicines and implications for nephrology. In terms of disclosures, I do not have any disclosures. So I want to begin I want to begin my presentation with a clinical case that I ran into. So I have a patient with history of membranous nephropathy with persistent proteinuria despite maximal ARB SGLT2 who presents for follow-up. So despite maximal therapy, he still has greater than 2 grams of proteinuria. His blood pressure has been on the lower end of normal, 110 systolics, and previously didn't tolerate MRAs. Fortunately, unfortunately, GLP-1s have been denied by his insurance previously, even though he has a BMI of 31 and has pre-diabetes. He's a fairly young guy, so I really wanted to protect his kidneys, but unfortunately, I was a little stuck on what to do. So kind of the question I had was, what would you do? And next thing I know, this patient, he brings out a supplement that his family bought for him and asks him if it's safe to take. And this is what it looks like. His family had bought for him a bottle of this InnoSup's GLP-1. He says it works great. His family member has taken it and also lost a bunch of weight. And he asks me if it's safe to take. Um, to be honest, was a little stunned. Eventually, we looked at the back of the label, and this is what was on there. Looks like a bunch of different vitamins, a ton of caffeine, some theobromine, which is essentially like caffeine. He's got some yohimbine in there, which is used as an aphrodisiac. So nothing in here with actual activated any GLP in there. And this got me thinking. We have a supplement that has pretty deceptive advertising, pretty expensive. That bottle was 60 pills and ended up being $100. Questionable, maybe harmful with everything else that's in the bottle. And this sort of compelled me to explore this industry a little bit more. I'm sure we've all had many different cases of our patients taking supplements we hadn't heard of. I think recently we had somebody that was supposed to be on a blood thinner, but instead was taking over-the-counter N-acetylcysteine instead of the blood thinner. I've had patients follow supplement trends based on TikTok, and they said they took whatever vitamins TikTok was telling them to take. So, kind of the objectives for the talk today. I'm going to briefly discuss it's all good. He muted. Discuss the history of supplements in the US, a little bit about how they're regulated, going to discuss the risks and benefits of supplements in our patient populations in the context of nephrology, and I'll talk a little bit about resources that are available to us and patients as well for evaluating the safety of supplements. So, why does this matter? Americans trust that prescription drugs are of high quality and are consistent in purity and potency. And based on a semi-old study, the general public has similar expectations of supplements as well. 70% of consumers believe FDA tests supplements, and 60% thought the FDA actually regulated them. But how true is this actually? So a little bit about the background of our supplement industry. It's a $64 billion industry in 2024 and expected to grow about 8% every year, with it topping over $100 billion in the next 10 years or so. There's currently more than 85,000 supplements out in the market. More than half of adult Americans have reported using supplements, and 12% of US adults report using 5 or more supplements. So very common, very big industry. Lots of people use it. I have three supplements kind of on the screen here: vitamin D, zinc, and C. I'm not sure if we remember the significance of these, but during COVID, uh, these were kind of on a craze. Lots of people were buying these. In 2019, I think the vitamins sold about 200 million, $245 million or so. But in the first 6 weeks of the pandemic, they had actually sold more than the entirety of 2016. I think sold over $400 million worth. So a lot of supplements being used and sold. So how is this industry regulated? Well, the idea first came up in 1906 with the passing of the Pure Foods and Drug Act. There were some laws introduced in the next 50 years, but after that, it more or less stayed the same
Bibliography for
until about 1994, in which the U.S. Dietary Supplement Health and Education Act was introduced. I'm not sure if we know who this person is, but this is former Senator Orrin Hatch of Utah, who was instrumental in introducing this law. Unfortunately, he may have been just a little bit, had some conflicts of interest. Utah has a very large natural products sector that generates over $10 billion a year. And of course, they're a top donator or former top donator to former Senator Hatch. This bill, a lot of people think, resulted in the unregulated sales of supplements with misleading labeling that has no beneficial health effects, and it's we can explore a little bit why that is. So these are some major tenets of that bill. I just want to focus on this area, which essentially says products are not required to gain pre-market approval. Products don't have to be proven safe or effective before being marketed. And in order for a product to be removed from the marketplace, the burden of proof essentially is part of the FDA now. So this is compared just for comparison for FDA for approval of pharmaceuticals. I'm not going to go through this. We all sort of know the basics, but you can see it's a lot more complicated. The FDA was also tasked with regulations regarding to good management practices, in which they are supposed to ensure the preparation, packaging, and storage of dietary supplements results in safe and reliable products. So to summarize briefly, bill was introduced. FDA can to summarize need to manage the production side of things, and they don't have enough. They don't really test products. So the FDA gets tasked with this good management practices portion of things, but how many employees actually are at the FDA doing the regulation? So this in 2024, pre the Trump era cuts, there was 40 employees. There's over 13,000 dietary supplement facilities that was registered in 2015. So 40 employees get to regulate all of this. And then many of these companies are not actually registered with the FDA, and a lot of them are cited for breaking the GMP practices. A lot of companies fail to set specifications for their products, and a lot of them didn't really test their products, and what's on their label is not what's actually in the product. So this paints a bit of a grim picture of supplements. And next, I want to ask the next question I had was how the supplements that are in bottles, are we actually getting what the label says? So there have been different studies performed to evaluate that. In this study, the analysis of select dietary products to support or boost the immune system. 30 different products were bought off of Amazon for products that were supposed to boost the immune system, and they were evaluated using liquid chromatography and mass spectrometry. And I won't go through this entire graph, but 7 out of 30 products had inaccurate labels, 13 were misbranded, and 9 had additional components detected that were not claimed on the label. So out of these 30 products, essentially at least a third had issues. There's another different study for label accuracy of weight loss drugs sold on or near U.S. military bases. Similar story. They purchased products in essentially local stores, and chromatography mass spectrometry was used to verify the accuracy of these products. And as you could see, it's very kind of scary. There's 80% inaccurate label, 60% misbranded. There were hidden ingredients in a lot of these, and substances on that were on the prohibited list were actually in these products as well. And essentially, most of these drug supplements were risky according to OPSS scorecard, which I'll talk about a little more later. Um, so talked a lot about this, but why do we as nephrologists care? I think a couple of things. Supplements are very commonly used. There are medications that can be directly nephrotoxic, like our favorite, aristocolic acid. Something else I learned is where herbal medicines are grown can have toxic metal content in certain areas of like China and India. The soil can contain more toxic metals such as lead and cadmium, which certainly you don't want in your products. Our CKD patients often are on multiple medications, and we fear the med interactions that may have with these supplements. And something else I learned is that a lot of these supplements can affect electrolytes as well. So that's something else we need to be careful of. This is just a chart that I found that it's not all inclusive, but it kind of demonstrates that herbs do have uh, adverse reactions. You can see here cat's claw can cause allergic interstitial nephritis. Our favorite licorice can have issues with potassium and some other supplements as well. They're the big supplement cases that have made the news. The Oxy Elite was a weight loss drug that actually caused a bunch of liver failure cases in Hawaii. And it was so bad, the transplant surgeons there couldn't keep up with the amount of liver failure people were getting. This is a chart that I really like that you can access on the NKF website. These list some common supplements that are actually high in potassium. I think something that we notice here is turmeric. I feel like a lot of our patients ask about it, and there's actually a decent amount of potassium in turmeric. And then next, similarly on the website, there's a chart about this is for phosphorus, a list of common medication or supplements that are high in phosphorus. Turmeric, once again, is here. But algae-based supplements, seaweed-based, green powders, products made from seeds are often higher in higher amounts of phosphorus. And so then I went to explore a little bit. I went onto Amazon and I looked up kidney health. And this is the first item that pops up. There are more than 6,000 positive reviews on this medication. So let's look at the bottle a little bit. What's actually on the ingredients in this kidney health? I'm not going to go through the plethora of ingredients here, but just to be brief, the main ingredients, cranberry powder inhibits CYP450 enzyme, so you could see how that could be an issue. The next ingredient, the buchu extract, may have antiplatelet effects. Horsetail there's case reports of it causing SIADH, and also it destroys thiamine and can cause low issues with that vitamin. The uva ursi decreases CYP2 C19 metabolism and also has GI side effects. Juniper powder taken in large amounts can make your urine purple. Astragalus is a little interesting. I'll talk about this one a little more later, but it can cause hypoglycemia and decrease immunosuppressive drugs. And the nettle extract is actually high in K and phos. And if we look here, our favorite turmeric is in this bottle as well. So I talked quite a lot about supplements and mainly its harmful side effects, but are there actually any studies that these things could be beneficial for kidneys health in general? When you look up case studies, it's often a lot of theoretical or scientific things that makes it plausible, but There was actually a pretty large study that was conducted in Taiwan, in which in this database, over 24,000 CKD patients, 4 and 5 are screened. And then they found these patients that were using 4 specific Chinese herbal medicines. Astragalus is one of them. There's the Angelica senilis, rhubarb, and Danson. And they propensity matched these patients to non-users and kind of followed them over 15, 16 years. And there was, based on their data, so this is not a randomized control trial, obviously, but there was a decreased hazard ratio for ESKD as well as death. And there was no increased risk with hyperkalemia. They didn't really monitor other side effects in this study. And then these were just kind of the different drugs. You can see each individual one seemed to have benefited some, but the most bang for the buck you got was if you took all 4. Certainly a lot of issues with the study, but this is just sort of something I found that's like, hey, supplements, we should study them, and they're not all bad. Um, Kind of other things, I think resources that we as providers and also patients should know about. Um, there are third-party verification programs that independently test supplement products and also inspect the facilities in which these products are made as well. And it's very important that product labels contain one of these things, which I'll show in a second. There is an OPSS scorecard, which essentially is a patient tool where they can fill it out. It will ask them some questions and it will spit out a score that will tell them, hey, is this thing safe to take or is it not safe to take? The NIH Herbs at a Glance, I think, was a very useful resource. You can look up a lot of common herbal medicines, and then it will give you like very patient-friendly and easy to read facts about them. There's natural medicines, which provide all UW providers have access to, in which we can look up specific supplements, its potential harms, benefits, med interactions, and there's also patient printouts from them as well. So I think another very useful resource, and we can personally look up this stuff for supplements we're curious about. I already mentioned the NKF herbal supplements, kidney disease. And then there's the FDA safety and reporting tools, MedWatch, which we can use to uh, report events in regards to supplements. I will say historically researching the data behind it, like for example, when the weight loss drug that was causing liver failure was going on, a lot of doctors were reporting, but it took the FDA about 6 months to have a response. And it had blown up national media wise before they actually did something. So how useful that is, I'm not actually sure. These are just some labels that you should hope to see on a supplement product. The NSF, USP, consumerlab.com are all different independent third party that certifies that a product is safe. But they don't really, they verify the products, but they don't necessarily can't comment on how safe something actually is. It's beyond their scope. Um, this is the OPSS scorecard that I was talking about. So it goes through a couple of things like is there a third-party label? Are there less than 6 ingredients? Is this label free of words like proprietary, blend, mix, or complex? Can you easily pronounce the name? Is the amount of caffeine listed less 200 milligrams or less? Is the label free of questionable claims or supplements? And are the daily values are they less than 200%? The first supplement I had, the GLP-1, failed every single category. The second most common kidney health supplement that I had on my slides failed most of these categories. Each category is a score of 1, and if it's greater than 4, it will recommend the patient not take it. So both those things failed. This is natural medicine. We have access through it. You can look up specific herbs and supplements. For example, here, aloe. It gives you a little bit of background. There's a patient handout that you can print in the up left-hand corner. And then you can look, it will give you adverse effects, effectiveness, dosing of interactions with drug. And specifically here, it can give you like related to certain organ systems. And you can see the oral latex, if ingested, can cause hemorrhagic gastritis, nephritis, and acute kidney failure. And they'll give you reference that they cite as well. So I know that was a lot of a kind of whirlwind tour of supplements, but it's to summarize things, it's very commonly used. The FDA has very little regulations. Third-party certification groups exist and should be on the labels. Supplements often contain adulterants not listed on the bottle, and CKD patients need to be especially careful with supplements. But not to say everything is bad. There are maybe some herbal medications that can help CKD. So these are my sources for the presentation, and I will open it up for questions.
Thank you so much, Bang. That was really wide-reaching talk and eye-opening for me, and I'm sure for many others. With that, does anyone have any questions or comments for Bang? Yeah, Simon.
Bang, that was awesome. Thanks for a deep dive into supplements. I really just have a comment, which is that Taiwanese study showed the relative risk of 0.3 is insanely incredible. That's like better than statins for cardiovascular disease prevention.
Yes.
So I think confounding is a major issue. You can imagine that patients more likely to take supplements might have other healthy habits.
Yes.
And so just, you know, for everyone to keep that in mind.
So Bang, how did you ultimately counsel that initial patient that came in with the GLP?
So I got him financial assistance and I got actual GLP approved. So I was like, I'll get you the good stuff.
Fair enough. Very good. A few comments in the chat. From Ed Kelly, great talk, Bang. Here's something you should ask your patients about who are taking TCM, which contain aristocolic acid. Provided a link there.
Those organizations that you mentioned that kind of help oversee supplements, do they also have commentary on like exercise supplement, like kind of pre-workout or kind of workout related supplements?
So yes, they do. They actually, some of those, I can't remember if it was the NSF or USP, they also screen supplements for like things that would fit on the like the anti-doping stuff of the work that are part of like organizations. So they'll tell you if it's has something that will pop positive on those tests. Yeah.
I think it's just a comment, but I think this can be really hard when counseling people not from like the main culture in the US, when they grew up in a culture where like certain things you kind of like grew up knowing, like was told that it's good for you, or like your culture and your family group and your church group, like everybody's telling you like this is good for you, and you go to your doctor. I feel like sometimes it can like cause this like antagonistic relationship. And when like coriander, turmeric, like these things is so common in so many cuisines. So I think it's like good to know like what's the amount that's actually dangerous. And yeah, it's like a hard balance.
I agree. I think talking about supplements is something we often gloss over, either because I don't know about others. I just don't know enough about it. And they'll give me a long list. I don't understand any of it. I think I think part of our duty is to ensure that they understand that it may actually be harmful. And if we start seeing things that are really abnormal, that then we need to probably dive a little bit deeper into the supplements.
Yuharn, you had a comment? A question?
I kind of question slash comment. I think the one comment I want to make is I just want to thank Bang for doing this because he was on the Nephro Hospitalist call last week, and then we made him see transplant patients yesterday. So thank you for doing this, even though you're so busy. But I think the question I have is, after doing, because patients come with supplements all the time, and most of the times I don't even know what they are. And they obviously, like what Simon says, right? They're very health conscious. They want this for their benefit. So after doing this talk, how do you envision you would counsel your patients, like moving forward?
I think small things being small. I think the first thing is I want to make sure whatever product they're taking is actually safe. So ideally, at the minimum, they try to buy products that are actually tested by one of these third parties, I think is the first step. And then I think if they're, it's a lot easier if they're English speaking and I can provide them resources. I think it's harder when they're not. But if they can give me some of these supplements that are maybe eye-raising, I can help print them out, some handouts about them, and we can also learn about them together if we have time. But I think the most important thing, number one, is first, like, do these products actually contain what you're taking? Yeah.
All right. Any other questions or comments for Bang? Really, I think it's just a difficult area, as you mentioned. I don't know that a lot of us are well trained in this, and I don't know who that onus would fall on, whether it's nephrology or hepatology or nutrition or primary care. It's a really a wide-reaching issue. I'm sure many of us in various specialties should have some understanding of it, but I think a difficult area almost seems like could be its own specialty.
It is. It's definitely very complicated. Yes.
Yeah. All right. Well, if no other comments or questions, I think we can move on to our next talk. Thank you, Bing. That was really, really excellent.